You're live.
WagerTalk Today. It is Friday, August the 15th. We got 2 NFL preseason games tonight, a ton on Saturday tomorrow. Also Major League Baseball, UFC 319, some WNBA. We're going to talk about a lot of different sports here with multiple cappers. Gianni The Greek, Teddy Covers, and Marco D'Angelo. It's a Vegas triple play. So I'm Steve Merill coming in from the East Coast, filling in for Andy Lang, who is literally living life today at the LIV Golf Tournament, LIV Golf Tournament, however you want to pronounce it. But let's bring in Gianni The Greek and Ace. I've always said, I say Johnny, some say Johnny, so I asked you, and it's actually Yanni.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Greek, like the musical guy back in the day, Yanni,
yes,
right? That's the first thing
it was easier. Back when I was younger, everyone knew that name because of the musician. So that's what they called me. They would just spell it wrong. They would spell it with a Y, like
Correct.
he does.
Yeah, I never thought it was Yanni. I've always said Gianni, but it sounds like people are saying Johnny, which I've never understood. So
yeah, the Greeks have it as Yanni. The Italians have it as Gianni.
So that's right. You're Greek.
Yeah,
Greek yeah. There we go. That makes more sense now because I know some Italians. Hey, nonetheless, you can do Steam as well as any of them. I might ask you a little bit about Bet Bash too. Teddy and you were talking about that off the air, but let's get to the actionable info here for Friday, and then we'll run with it.
Yes, sir. It's a little slow so far. It's funny. I was saying the last few days, I swear to you, have been a little slow, and I realized why. They're all here. Most of those groups are here. I met so many that I've actually worked with over the years that I've never met in person. You know what I mean? But we do accounts and we've settled figures and stuff, but we just never actually met in person. But I see now so many are here. Just trying to connect. They're trying to connect, with get more accounts from other bettors. Try to connect and see, are you working with them? If not, I have their stuff. So it was cool doing all of that. And I realized that's why it's so slow, because a lot of those guys are here for this event. So it's a little slow so far with movements, but here's what we got. Overnight WNBA, it's a little too late now. LA got steamed at 3.5 and 4 against Dallas. That's the only thing that sticks out in the WNBA early. Major League Baseball, again, a little slow. The day should pick up for sure. 2 sides, 2 totals that got hit already. The sides, 969, the Angels at -110, 971 Miami +145. The 2 totals, 955 under 8.5. Philly, Washington, 964 under 8, under 8, forgive me, up to -120. Baltimore and Houston. A couple other moves, but not multiple groups coming in on the same side. And usually that's sometimes just picking off numbers. They'll see if someone's off market. Some of my accounts that I have are off screen. So some of these lines will be off market, and they'll bet some lines like that. But these are the ones that I've seen multiple confirmation in. Looking at football really quick. Let's pull up the football. What was sticking out? I know in tonight's game, obviously Seattle got hit. I talked about that yesterday. We bet Seattle at a pick'em. That moved very quickly. And because they had opened as the dog, I wasn't even all that confident. I didn't release that one to my subscribers. Kind of wish I did, because now we're looking at them laying 3 to Kansas City. So that was definitely hit. And what else did I see? Did I see anything else?
Well, I'll tell you what we have seen. We've seen a reverse buyback on this Titans-Falcons game at 7 Eastern tonight on NFL Network, because I did a video 2 days ago, Yanni, and I just said I didn't agree with the line move from 3.5 up to 5.5. As I thought Atlanta was the better defensive team. Tennessee still struggling offensively, even with Cam Ward in there. And now, lo and behold, it's back down to that key number of 3 here on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and I saw that getting hit, and they were even hitting the game in the first half. And then, like you said, you see the opposite movement start to come in.
What do you make of something like that? Obviously, maybe something's coming out with the Falcons saying they're playing guys more than whatnot. I haven't looked into it since I did the video.
And that talking to a guy down there that was one of the preseason originators, he does a lot of the preseason work. And I told him, where do you get your what do you confirm? Your most confident positions. And he said it all has to do with information on who's playing. That's all I'd say 90+%, he said, of my bets are the product of finding out someone's not playing or someone is playing without feeling that the line has that factored into it. That's pretty much what they've been doing with the preseason. So I would assume it has to do something, along those lines with players playing or not playing.
Yeah, and this is why it's such a cat and mouse game, right? Because if you'd like Tennessee, you jumped on the 3.5, and then at 5.5, when I was doing the video 2 days ago, I said I really don't think this line should have moved at all. I think it's equal. And now it looks like maybe that was right because it's back down to 3. I really feel it's just for the average Joes out there that aren't chasing line moves, whatnot, trying to get information where it moves. It's almost a new way to handicap the preseason. Just assume like it's like the stock market. All the information is now into the line. Is it correct or not? And this is a case where I didn't think it was, and it has come back down. But it's a different world than it was 10, 15 years ago with these preseason games, especially with them only having 3 now. Weeks 2 or, week 2 is the dress rehearsal for some guys this week. Week 3 is next week. It used to always be week 3.
Yep. My pleasure, Paul. Sorry, just saw the comment, man. Anytime. I'm glad you're able to use the information. Hope you're able to do some damage. And get real quickly in the NFL. Like, here's what. Let me share a couple of the things that are really sticking out in NFL. Like tonight in the Seahawks Chiefs game. Looking in that back end right now, there are zero bets on Kansas City. And yet there are a lot of one-sided bets on Seattle at -3, okay? So here's what you got to pay attention to. That shouldn't even be an option for most bettors, Seattle -3. You already know they opened as a 2.5, 3-point dog. That line is now flipped. Any value has been extracted. Like, you're now not betting from any position of strength. Like, to me, that just seems like the market is already giving you only one option, and that's either you like the Chiefs at +3 or you move on to another game. It confuses me how so many bettors can line up right now, and Seattle could go out there and win by double digits. That's not what I'm saying. I just don't see how Seattle could be a good bet. Why the confidence in laying 3 with Seattle? And that's coming from someone that has Seattle tonight at a pick-em. Like, I need Seattle to win because I bet it for the accounts and I take a percentage of them. But I would not urge anyone to bet Seattle now. Or even worse, I get guys that DM me and say, I missed the play. Could I money line them? Would that make it a good bet? Of course not, because the money line's a reflection of -3. It's not a reflection anymore of a pick'em. If you could get that money line at -110, absolutely blast it. But right now, I'm sure that's not the case. You're being asked to lay 165 or so to bet that money line. Once again, we do not have the same bet. I have the money line at -110. You're going to have the money line at -160, 165. We don't have the same bet. So of course not. I urge you not to do it. So I think with the preseason, that's where it makes it a lot easier. And I don't want to go long on this, but I'm tired of listening to all these influencers out there who have no idea what they're talking about. And all I've heard about them over and over, whoever's betting the preseason, the degenerate. Don't bet the preseason. Don't bet the What are you talking about? When in the NFL are we going to see line moves like this without huge injuries? The only time you ever see line moves like this is if a quarterback goes down. So what does that mean? It means that the market's extremely inefficient compared to Sunday in week 4, where the line's not going to move but a half a point. Unless, like I said, there's some injuries involved or, a line gets steamed. And even then, that's how much is it going to move? Right now, we have proof by the opening line and the closing line that these are as inefficient as they come. You're not going to get NFL lines that are less efficient than the preseason. So how can you urge anyone to stay away from the preseason? If anything, tell them to stay away from the regular season and only bet the preseason because they ain't beating the NFL. So forgive me. I heard it again this morning from like an influencer that's got almost a couple 100,000 followers or something like that, talking about whoever, if someone's giving you preseason, they're a degenerate. Nobody could be winning preseason. Like that's for, action junkies and stuff like that. And again, nothing could be further from the truth. Preseason's where it's at. And more importantly, they make your job easy. Because if you didn't get out ahead of the line, then all you have to conclude is, with this huge of a movement, should I now take the other side? Like, it's not rocket science, but for some reason, They make it again. I'm sorry to go off, but I just was so shocked to see 100% of the bets in this dude's sheet on Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a fade the public situation for the NFL preseason, right? And how about the move in the Browns game? Shadar Sanders is not playing, and that moves like a whole field goal or more. There's some silly stuff that happens. I really think what you have to do nowadays is decide, are the line moves warranted or not? Just like going back to that Tennessee Falcons game tonight. I never really felt like Tennessee should be a 5.5-point favorite. Cam Ward scored on one of his 2 drives. They didn't score the rest of the game. They were the worst team in the NFL last year. That's why they got the #1 draft pick. And they're all of a sudden a 5.5-point road favorite against a good defensive-minded coach. But, yeah, I've always told people, if you don't think you can win in the preseason, then why isn't every game a pick-em? If this is completely random, every game should be a pick-em. Exactly. And it's not. You get 5, 6, 7-point favorites. That tells you all you need to know about the preseason.
Here's what's interesting about this week's preseason as well. There's only one game on this entire board that so far, and again, most recreational bettors, even though the books that I have access to, they're credit shops. So recreational bettors with credit can lock up bets earlier in the week. Like if you're betting with cash and you're posting, I understand not locking up games a week, 2 weeks in advance because you're using your bankroll night after night. So I get it. But I just can't understand how every single game except one doesn't have a single under bet on it. Meaning as of right now, from recreational accounts, not a single recreational account has bet one game under. The only game they bet under that won, Cardinals and Broncos, is the only preseason game this week that I see an under bet booked. Every single other game on this sheet right now. And again, most haven't bet, but this is probably, he's got a couple hundred players, maybe 20% of that have bet so far, 25% at most, and all overs, over. Now, some got good numbers because the overs seem to be trending in that direction because of what we've seen so far in the preseason. But it's zero, like I said, one game getting a little under money, but still heavier to the over. It just happens to have a few under bets. No other game has a single under bet booked on it. It's the over or nothing at all.
So that's also the only game out of all 16 here in week 2 in which the opening line is higher than the current line. Every other game, the other 15 games are the same, if not higher than the opener right now. So that goes to exactly what you're saying. It's been all over money. And if I'm not mistaken, last week the overs were 14-2 in week 1 of the preseason. I've pointed out a stat that's very basic. 37 is the key number. You and I were coming up, Teddy and Marco in the 90s. We saw 37s and 41s all the time. We don't see them anymore in the regular season. 37 is the most key total of all. You see it in the preseason, probably about a 4 to 5% chance a game lands on 37 in this price range. If you've blindly played 37 or less over, 37 and a halves or higher under over the last decade, you've hit like 57% on the blind. Maybe things are changing here. It goes back, Gianni, also to what I said about 3 weeks of the preseason, right? Teams are playing more in week 1 than they used to, and we saw a ton of overs. I think the betting market is anticipating that. I'm not going to say we're going to have more unders and overs this week, but if I'm a bettor, I'm probably looking for some reasons to play some unders at this point.
I think so too. That's how I feel. I haven't bet any overs yet. I'm looking to see if I could take advantage of some unders heading into the weekend.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of uncertainty with the quarterback rotations. We have a lot of free play videos here on the channel. We'll dig into that more as well on Last Call tomorrow on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Let me ask you about UFC 319. We don't have a lot of talk about the MMA stuff the rest of the show. Big UFC event this weekend. Anything?
I'm going to do a public service announcement right now. Public service announcement. Be very cautious on Lerone Murphy. For whatever reason, everyone I'm speaking to is telling me that the wrong fighter is favored in that fight. And I understand why. Because Lerone Murphy has done absolutely nothing wrong. He had a draw in his first UFC fight, and I think he's won 5 or 6 since. He has 0 losses in the UFC, and he's fighting Aaron Pico, who is coming over from Bellator. And we have a small sample size of 2 fighters over the last few months that just came over from Bellator. Patchy Mix and Pitbull. Both of those fighters looked awful in their UFC debut. So the narrative is, what's going to change with Aaron Pico coming over from Bellator? I'll tell you this, Aaron Pico is a different a completely different situation than those other two fighters. He's in his prime still. Like the UFC has wanted him for a very long time. Mick Maynard has been very high on Aaron Pico, and everyone has. I mean, he was a phenom coming out of high school. He could have went to any college, top wrestling colleges in the country, and instead he went straight to the Olympic trials out of high school, which is like never happens. That's how good this kid was. And speaking this, like Andrew Gombis, who's an originator of MMA, who wrestled in high school, in college, speaking to him yesterday, he said you couldn't go to a tournament without hearing his name, Aaron Pico, Aaron Pico, Aaron Pico. So this kid, it's potential versus credentials, and sometimes it is worth going out on that risk curve and paying for potential, because I think when we look back on this fight, we're going to come to the conclusion that it probably should have been a lot higher than actually this line is. It opened at about minus 140, got to 150, got as high as 180, almost 200. Since then, it's starting to come down because the Lauren Murphy money is starting to get to the window. Lerone Murphy, forgive me. I'm just throwing public service announcement. Be cautious with that dog. I know everyone thinks he's live. I know it seems like there's a ton of value, but be cautious. There's some sharp money opposite that are very high on Aaron Pico. And what else can I share real quickly? Main event, it's no secret. Anyone that's been following anything I do knows I love Chimaev in that fight. A lot of DDP money is going to come in. So I think if you like Chimaev and you don't want to lay the 240s, 230s, I think you may want to wait till tomorrow. You'll probably get a better price. I released that to subscribers at minus 200. I thought it should be a lot higher than that. So I do like Chimaev in the main event. And like I said, cautious in the co-main event with Pico and Murphy.
Love it. It's almost a fade the public situation. We talk about that, right? You love it when everyone likes the dog in any sport, and all of a sudden the sharp money is on the favorite. Got a little bit of UFC 319 that happening there. And I already told our social media team, whenever you start with public service amount, that's going to be a great social media clip. So I can see that one being up in the near future here. Don't you dare call him Gianni the Italian. He's Gianni the Greek.
Yes.
And you also have the steam room, I believe, coming up here in the near
Yep,
future.
10 minutes. We're 10 minutes away. 10 minutes away. Got to knock it out Friday because we got a busy weekend of UFC 319, preseason football, Major League Baseball, WNBA, a lot of stuff. And really excited for the football season. If you watch the preview shows, you know we're ready to go. So, yeah, join the steam room. That's in 10 minutes. And get ready for a big weekend, 5% up in UFC 319.
And I know they had a special yesterday. I think it expired like 20 minutes ago. But if you really would like to find out more about the steam room, contact our award-winning customer support team here at WagerTalk.com.
And keep sending those best bet videos out, Steve. I saw the one yesterday you put out. Love them, bro. Love.
Yeah, we'll keep excited for the football season, right? We got college football top 25 every week. The Fade the Public. Got some other ideas floating in the head too, Yanni. So I'll let you know.
Shout out to OGs, Marco and Teddy coming up from behind. And
yeah, this is the Vegas triple play here. You know, we did this in last call last week, and I joked that all of us had at least 4 decades of experience.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it today because
we have over 100 years of sports betting experience.
Yeah, it was you, Teddy, and Ross Benjamin, but we got Marco in for Ross, so that's an equal swap right there.
Yep.
2 old school guys. So yeah, once again, all of us 90s or older
experience.
Pretty crazy. 2 centuries. We each have 2 centuries of work, and you'll get that in the steam room coming up here in 9 minutes. Once again, Gianni the Greek. Find him at WagerTalk.com, and all access subscribers get the steam room every week with him. If you'd like more information, hey, message customer support here at WagerTalk.com. They'll get you set up. All right, let's bring in Teddy Covers. No further ado. And Teddy, I got to ask you about the NFL preseason. We talked a lot about it last week on last call. We saw those overs come in. Yanni just talked about all the money coming on the overs this week. Has something changed? Is it an overreaction? What are your thoughts?
So with all due respect to you and Yanni, a couple of corrections. Overs went 13-2 last week, not 14-2. The Lions-Falcons game didn't get to 55 minutes. That didn't count. But they are 14-2 so far in the entirety of the preseason, counting the Hall of Fame game. So
that's what I saw
last week, 14-2 overall. Secondly, we have seen a big totals move towards the under on one game that got steamed up initially. 39.5 up to 42.5, now back to 39.5. So when you look at your odds logic live odds screen, you might not notice that line moved up 3 points, that total, and then got bet back down. That is in the Chiefs game that we're going to talk about with the Seahawks in just a few minutes. When we talk about why the over so far has the markets, and there are two schools of thought. There's a school of thought out there saying, look, the NFL changes from year to year, and the markets are lagging behind where the NFL is when it comes to these preseason totals. That is one of the two theories. The other theory, and that's the one that I subscribe to, is that last week and so far this preseason has been a lot of randomness that has resulted in a lot of overs. We saw a bunch of big special teams plays last week. We saw, most importantly, red zone efficiency be off the charts good. And when teams are scoring touchdowns in the red zone as opposed to field goals, it's a huge difference for totals. Half the totals that have gone over this preseason gone over by a touchdown or less. And that's, one or two defensive or special team scores / one or two touchdowns instead of field goals. It's not like every game is flown over the total. And when it comes to this week, there are bettors out there. They're like, I'm not playing any unders till I see unders come in. I'm not one of those bettors. We'll talk about that again when we break down the NFL game for tonight that we have scheduled to do so.
Yeah, and like you just said, with that many squeaking over, we saw a lot of totals below 37 last week. I don't see many at all on the board this week. So once again, these lines have been pumped up 3, 4, 5 points. So if you're talking about that narrow of a margin last week, then maybe it is going to be 50-50. I think the biggest difference is what I said earlier. Week 1 is not like week 1 a decade ago. Starters are playing more. It's almost a week 2 now. And with the 3 preseason games, I think it's shifted everything. Totals are a lot higher this week than they were last week. Are the teams really taking that much of a different approach this week than last week?
Starters didn't play much last week, Steve. I mean, they really didn't. I wouldn't compare that to – I wouldn't compare week 1 2025 to week 1 2015 when it comes to starter playing time. I'd call it basically even. What happened last week was the red zone offense was good, and we had a bunch of special teams and defensive scores. And the game snuck over. But it had more, in my opinion, to do with red zone efficiency than any other factor. Lots of touchdowns. Teams were kept on getting 7-7-7s instead of 3s.
Let me ask you this. We'll get to some baseball and then tonight's NFL game. With the 3 preseason games now, this year, last couple years, weeks 2, weeks 3, it used to always be week 3 out of the 4 where that was the dress rehearsal almost for everybody. Nobody played in week 4. Now some do it this week. Now some do it in the final week because they're off for a couple weeks after week 3. What's your research showing on that?
So the week 3 regular season walkthrough, that was such a, and the lines reflected that very much.
Correct.
That was the 1 week where the good teams would actually be favored over the bad teams in August. I'm not sensing any of that this week. I'm not hearing any coach saying, yeah, we're going to walk through. We're looking for the regular season. Not a one. Maybe something will come up between now and the end of the weekend. But so far, doing my work, I haven't seen anyone say, yeah, this is our regular season walkthrough week. Yeah, we're going to play the starters a full half, or we're going to play the starters into the third quarter like you did in preseasons in olden times. So I haven't gotten that sense, and neither have the markets. Because when you look at how the lines have moved this week, it's as much bet against for the big line moves. They're betting against the Rams, they're betting against the Packers for the teams that are laying 6-7 points, and most of the other games are in a much narrower point spread range, which tells us that they're not expecting starters to be on the field for one team when they're not on the field for the other.
And I'll tell you, we're going to look at Padres-Dodgers in a moment, but let's finish off the football thoughts. I mentioned that I've got a full 12-minute video for that Titans-Falcons game tonight at 7 Eastern NFL Network. And now you're going to give us some free information for the late-night NFL Network game at 10 Eastern tonight, Chiefs and Seahawks. And we did see that money come in on Seattle. Gianni talked about it. It's one-sided. They've gone from a 2.5-point dog to now a solid 3-point home favorite. Agree, disagree? Looking at the total, how are you attacking this one? Kansas City at Seattle Friday night.
Sure, let's talk some Friday night NFL preseason action with the Seahawks and the Chiefs. And as you mentioned, Steve, the money so far has come for Seattle, and it's been significant money. Kansas City open -2.5, now the Seahawks -3. That has everything to do with the projected starters for these two teams for tonight. The total got open 39.5, got bet up 42.5, and has since come back down and sitting pretty much right where it opened right now in the 39.5 range. We saw Seattle last week. Drew Lock moved the football the whole first half. Then he threw a red zone interception. That was the only reason it wasn't a blowout. They were up 16-3 at halftime. If Lock didn't throw that red zone pick, they could have easily been up by 3 scores at the break. Jalen Milroe played most of the second half. He was able to move the football on the ground fairly efficiently, 38 rushing yards, which is you like a QB as a third stringer who can make plays with his legs as much as his feet. And Seattle's a team that is really emphasizing running the football. They want to run the football in August. They want to run the football in September. There's been a significant amount of emphasis on putting the offensive line together, and there's still questions who's going to start at guard and center for Seattle, so there's urgency there for the linemen. And last week, they had 32 carries for 170 yards, 10 rushing first downs. I would expect a comparable game plan this week. The quote from the beat writer, Mike McDonald, indicated he plans to have his first team offense out there. We only have 1 year of evidence about how, as he as a head coach, handles having his starters in. Last year, Gino and the number ones played only 1 drive in 1 game, week 3, with Sam Darnold being brand new to the team and a new system with Clint Kubiak, OC. I expect we'll see the starters for longer than what we saw them last year. McDonald's quote, there might be a couple of guys that will sit based on whether they get out there or not. We're still working through it now, but our guys are going to start the game out. We'll see how long it goes. So we have clearly Seahawks starters playing in this ballgame. And when you see the starters in the field, generally the coach leaves them in until they score at least once and oftentimes twice. Now, Kansas City played their starters in week 1 for 1 series, a series that started on the 13-yard of Arizona's 13-yard line after a turnover. They scored a touchdown and then moved on to Gardner Minshew and company. Minshew, Mahomes had a 13-yard touchdown drive. Minshew had 2 drives, 1 touchdown. Then Bailey Zappi and Chris Olajuwon, and that duo, not good. They didn't score a point after Minshew left the game. Zappi threw 2 picks. Olajuwon threw had 2 chances, drives to win the game, couldn't move the football either time. 39 passing yards on 13 attempts. It's worth noting, Andy Reid is now 0-4 his last 4 preseason games, a guy that had a decent track record. Haven't seen that in last year or this year when it comes to success for Kansas City. And typically, in years past, Reid gives his offense a series in preseason week 1, and they work their way up to like a full quarter in week 2. From the indications, again, looking at Kansas City's beat writer and looking at Andy Reid's quote, I'm still figuring out who's going to play, not play, the whole deal. So the chance I sit a couple of starters or at least be short with them. We want to make sure here's the key part of the quote. We want to make sure we get a good look at these young guys and just see how it rolls all going forward. And of course, Reid said, there's a good chance Mahomes doesn't play. We'll see how it goes. So there's a chance Mahomes could still play and the starters could still play for Kansas City. And if so, we'll see a bunch of Chiefs money over the next 24 hours, or then over the next, 12 hours or 8 hours, whatever it is till kickoff. We'll see some money tonight, but the markets haven't shown any indication that's going to come. And certainly there appears to be more of an urgency for Seattle than Kansas City right now. Reid's 0-4 track record. And in my mind, the under is the best way to bet this ballgame. Even at the current number, you're not getting any worse than the opening number. We expect Seattle to try to run the football. We have a Kansas City second half that's not likely to move the football. And I think there's some value in unders. We've seen the sharp money pour in on the under from the 42.5 that it was earlier in the week. If I'm playing this game, lean Seattle, lean under.
Yeah, this opened brief, like you said, 39.5. And if you look, it still says 39.5. But yes, earlier this week, it was as high as 42.5 if you check the Odds Logic archive line. So we have a little reverse line movement on this one, just like we do in the first game, Tennessee-Atlanta. Tennessee went from 3.5 up to 5.5, now down to 3. And once again, reverse line movement in both games tonight. Who wears short shorts? Minshew wears short shorts. He'll be doing it in Kansas City in the cold of the winter. How dare he? All seriousness, though, he's a capable backup. And, we talk about season win totals. I always say you got to worry about those injuries. And obviously Mahomes, has been injury prone in recent years. I think that's huge for Kansas City to have Minshew. I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but he's serviceable if something is to happen this year in Kansas City. I like Minshew. Of course, Teddy used to see him on the Vegas Strip in the short shorts when he was with the Raiders. Not as much so.
So Minshew had his chances earlier in his career, and he had a chance again last year, and he's basically barfed them all up. Minshew's not a starting NFL quarterback. If Kansas City goes to Minshew for any reason this year, I don't see him being graded any higher than Chad Henne was, which is, at least a touchdown drop-off for the Chiefs.
I would agree with
You're
that.
higher on Minshew than I am.
Well, I think Henne's probably an accurate comparison. So that's a huge drop-off. And that's what always people forget it. And you know this, Teddy. It's not how much is Mahomes worth. It's how much is the difference between Mahomes and the backup quarterback worth. And it very well might be a touchdown. I wouldn't disagree. Although I am a Gardner Minshew fan, and I've enjoyed doing my Fade the Public videos with him over the years because he's been on some bad teams that the public often fades, which is something I've just come to realize. Jacksonville, Raiders. It's like he was in the videos a lot. He was on some bad teams. Teddy, we'll talk some baseball. It's always tricky when a team doesn't have their starter decided yet, and that's the case with San Diego tonight. They're at the LA Dodgers. So I'll ask you if you have any thoughts on this game, but just big picture, I definitely want to get your take on these LA Dodgers. The unbeatable LA Dodgers coming into the season just got swept by the Angels. They've dropped 4 in a row now. If you look back over their last 32 games, 35 games, I think they're 12-21 now over the last 33 or so. Yet they're still 68-53 on the season. What's your take on the Dodgers? And do you see anything in this game tonight, San Diego at LA?
I certainly do. But let's talk just real quick. I want to close out NFL saying I came on and I was like, oh, you guys got it was 13-2 to the over last week, not 14-2, and this total moved up and not down and all this stuff. I do a show every Monday morning with Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, the NFL opening line report. If you've never watched it, come watch it this week, although I think Kelly's going to be off. Well, Kelly's a maybe because she's in Ireland. We may have Dan Alexander, who we'd love to have on the show as a host with us. But if you want a strong NFL report on Monday morning, first thing, before these lines start to go crazy, with emergency betting alerts in the process, say, hey, this line's about to move, that line's about to move. It has a little steam report in there. Check it out. Again, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, live every Monday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, bright and early, 11 a.m. for you back east.
And Teddy, I was going to say, you almost were a lawyer. You would have been a decent lawyer because I can also be a lawyer at times. Had I just changed the term this season to 14-2 instead of last week, I would have been correct.
Yes.
And I also believe, we'll go back and check the videotape. I might have said only one game has had money coming in the under. That line is still the same in the Kansas City.
It was Gianni. It was Gianni who said that he hasn't seen any bets on the under. I'm like, no, this line.
Oh, yeah, bets on the under. You're right about that. There's definitely been some bets coming in the under because that went down several points, but only one line is lower than the opener, I guess would be technically correct still. Absolutely. But nonetheless, you got something on the Padres Dodgers, but I'm really curious in your take on the Dodgers in general because, something's not meshing here. They're 15 games above for the season, but they're like 10 games below over the last 30 or so. So what happens in this one?
So let's start by talking about Clayton Kershaw. All right. And looking right now at the Odds Logic live odds screen. And if you haven't tried it, guys, really, I'm a big fan, all right, of having a live odds screen open pretty much 24/7 on my other monitor. I just keep it rolling and it gives you a good sense of what the markets are doing, tells you when you have to get down. It speaks to where the sharp money's going. It speaks to where the public's money is going. It really is a valuable tool. oddslogic.com/Teddy will get you a free 7-day all access for the OddsLogic product. I encourage you, check it out again, oddslogic.com/Teddy. But looking at that OddsLogic live odds screen, I'm seeing LA anywhere from -170 to -185 at some books. Total sitting 9.5. There are a couple of books that are a 9 juice to the over. And I want to start talking about Clayton Kershaw. We got Kershaw versus pitcher X for San Diego tonight. Kershaw, obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's 37 years old. He's coming off a season-ending injury last year. He's got 14 starts. He hasn't missed a single turn in the rotation since getting back off the IL in May. And he's thrown 2 gems in August, 12 innings pitched against the Rays and the Blue Jays, only 1 run allowed in those 2 games combined. But the advanced metrics for Kershaw are concerning. They're real concerning. His strikeouts are way down, 17 over his last 33 innings pitched in his last 6 starts since July 1st. He's got a rough track record versus current Padres, 828 OPS, a decent 144 at-bat sample size. Multiple Padres have had great success against him, including Manny Machado and company. The bullpen behind Kershaw is an absolute train wreck right now, all right? They made 1 acquisition at the trade deadline. They brought in Brock Stewart, and he's got a sore right shoulder. You got Michael Kopech and Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates all on the injured list still. This team's 10-14 since the All-Star break. They've allowed the go-ahead run in the 8th inning or later in 4 of their last 5 losses. They're 12-21 their last 33. A 2-7 skid going to the break. So it's not a little slump for LA. They stink right now. And this is a team with nothing to prove in August. The bottom of the order is, Muncie's back on the DL. They're getting nothing from 6, 7, 8, 9, an order that was, they were getting great production from the bottom of the order for extensive portion of this season. That hasn't happened of late. And then the quotes. Here's Mookie Betts. It's not like these guys aren't going out there and giving it their all. Sometimes you just don't get it done. I think it's encouraging to know that we're giving ourselves a chance to win every night. So it's not like we're going out there and just laying an egg. Sorry, that's not the quote I want. I want the quote of, we're freaking pissed. We're freaking hungry. We've gotten our asses kicked for weeks. Let's step up. I'm not getting that sense. This team has nothing to prove right now. The Dodgers, 5-2 against the Padres this year. They knocked the Padres out of the playoffs last year on their way to winning the World Series. This San Diego team has a lot to prove in August. And oh, by the way, they're the hottest team in baseball right now, 14-3 their last 17 games. Just like last year, surging after the All-Star break. I don't care they don't have a starting pitcher tonight. Yeah. Originally it was going to be Michael King. They just called up Randy Vasquez from AAA El Paso, who's, again, he's not an ace. He's not anyone the market's going to be excited about. It's still undecided whether he's going to go tonight or somebody else. I don't care who goes for San Diego. I could only look at the Padres at the plus price right now. Right now, regardless of starting pitching, there are concerns about Kershaw. And even if Kershaw pitches well, the bullpen behind him is not trustworthy. The lineup behind him is not trustworthy. Padres or pass for this better.
Teddy quotes, some baseball locker room quotes from my man Mookie, one of my favorite players. I love it. And that Padre offense was hot this past 3 games in San Francisco. They put up 20 runs on 34 hits in those 3 wins. Outscored the Padres 20-3. Hottest team in baseball, as Teddy just said. The Padres, a big dog tonight because they're undecided against a future Hall of Famer, but the Dodgers have definitely been struggling. And, of course, you can get Teddy's baseball best bets at WagerTalk.com. Teddy talked about opening line report every Monday. It's must-see TV. But also you've got your NFL season wins package still available as well. Tell us about that at WagerTalk.
Yeah, I have a 5% big ticket play up in NFL preseason action for tomorrow. And this is one where I do not know where the line is going to move. I couldn't figure out where the line is going to move. I'm like, I'm just putting it out right now. And we'll lock in at the current number. And you can still get the same number that I put it out at. Visit my homepage, wt.buzz/TC. You talked about the season wins, 103-52 lifetime, 17-4 with the 5% big tickets. And the lines are still available. Some years they're not. This year, the wise guys, the sharp money said, yeah, well, we don't love Teddy's plays as much as perhaps we did other years. Good. That means the lines are still out there for my clients to get. So I would encourage you, if you haven't done so already, get on board with the season win package. And of course, check out that opening line report every Monday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern. And of course, for this video, be sure to like. That's all we ask. Just hit that like button if you like this type of analysis. Comment below. Tell us what you think. And of course, we're approaching 210,000 subscribers on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. It's a huge number. If you haven't done so, do it now. Subscribe, and you'll get instant alerts every time these videos go live.
Yeah, Teddy's also got daily free plays. Check those out. He's got some NFL free plays up there, a college football free play for the regular season. Free plays galore at WagerTalk.com. That's Teddy Covers, and you will see him next this Monday on Opening Line Report right here on WagerTalk TV. And we're going to finish off our Vegas triple play with another original and OG, Marco D'Angelo. And Teddy corrected us, Marco. I got to correct him. We're over 210,000 subscribers. I think we're over 211 now, if I'm not mistaken. So now it's 212 is next. The key number of 212,000 subscribers to make everything work. Marco, I want to get your NFL preseason thoughts in a moment. We've talked a lot about it. I definitely want to get you to weigh in on the way out. But we'll stick with the baseball theme here. What's something you're looking at tonight in Major League Baseball?
Well, we're taking a look at the Texas Rangers, Toronto Blue Jays game, and you got 2 teams, honestly, going opposite directions. Texas just 1-6 in their last 7 games. What's more concerning about only being 1-6 is that they've scored 2 runs or less in 6 of their last 8 games. Toronto 6-3 their last 9. But if you look at them over the last 6 games, 4 of those 6 games, they've been held to 2 runs or less. So you might see a little theme here where I'm looking in this game. You got Jacob DeGrom on the mound. He had a stretch prior to his last 3 starts where he had 15 of 16 starts where he allowed 2 runs or less. Then he had back-to-back bad games. He gave up 5 runs, but then in his last start, good signs, back in form, went into the 7th inning, allowed 3 runs in that game. More importantly, strikeout to walk ratio was 8-1. So it tells me he had command of his pitches, and I look to see the Jacob deGrom that we saw for almost the entire season. So I look for a good outing out of him. And then here's a crazy number with Chris Bassett. He has lost 2 of his last 3 starts, or I should say he's got roughed up in 2 of his last 3 starts. The 2 that he got it roughed up in were both on the road. The Toronto Blue Jays are 8-0 in his home starts. I'm going to go ahead and look at the under in this game. Those 8 starts, 3 runs to the opposition is what the average has been. I expect both pitchers to pitch well. And another crazy stat I'll throw at you with the Texas Rangers. When they are playing a game where it doesn't matter who's the favorite, but it's minus 150 or less, so we're talking about a more competitive type game. How about 34-13 to the under? Let's take under 7.5 tonight, Rangers, Blue Jays.
Like it, a little under action in Toronto between the Rangers and Blue Jays. And Marco, got to turn to the NFL preseason. We've talked a lot about it there on the show, but I want to get your opinion as well. How have things changed for you in recent years? Obviously, for me, I think having the 3 NFL preseason games has really messed things up, if you want to say. It's just mixed up how everyone approaches it. Your thoughts so far in this year, these line moves as well, more faster than ever and more extreme than ever. I know you probably do things a little differently than when you started back in the 90s as well now with the NFL preseason.
Well, going to the 3-week schedule definitely changes everything. You know, the pattern that we have seen over the last couple seasons is these big moves that you see, they're not winning. Okay. The overreaction to the steam and then people piling on to the steam and driving the lines. You saw big moves last week and they all bit the dust. I talked last Friday with John Murray at the Westgate when did the radio show. And this is a pattern that is alarming. Now, the other pattern that everybody's going to jump up and down about is because of all of the overs you saw last week. And I have my theory on why you see the overs in the first week and why you won't see as many of the overs in the second week. To me, because we have the 3-week pattern, week 1 is still treated the same as it is from the old days to now. They really don't care. All right. This is where you're going to see a lot of backup players in there. The offenses are not going to have the starters in there. And where the advantage comes in and why you see more scoring, in my opinion, is because you don't have game planning in these games. You have the backups in much earlier on defense. And when you get quarterbacks that are backups but have had experience, they've already started games. They're just not quality. You know, they weren't good enough to keep their jobs as starters, but they're career backup guys. We talked about Drew Lock had a big game last week. My guy in Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph, he has done this every year. Great preseasons. Why? He knows the offense. He has started NFL games, and he's going against 3rd and 4th units a lot of times. And then you have guys that are mobile quarterbacks where the defenses break down. They're not scheming for him. You've got a mobile quarterback that can extend a play or make a big play on a broken play. That's why you see that in week 1. In week 2, you're going to see more coaches play starters. It's a mix and match. Some coaches will put more emphasis in week 2. Some will put more in week 3. You would think that week 2 would be the dress rehearsal, but because they have that extra week after week 3, a lot of coaches will play them in week 3, and then you have that extra week to prepare before the season starts. So look for a lot more unders in week 2 and week 3, especially week 2. And we're going to talk about one of those ones that I definitely like, the under.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this earlier, Teddy, and Gianni as well. I think you look for reasons to start playing some unders now. These lines are drastically higher, and I will point out once again, we saw a lot of totals below the key number of 37 last week. We're not seeing that this week, so the lines have definitely been adjusted. Let's talk Eagles-Browns. This is your 1 o'clock national TV game on NFL Network tomorrow on Saturday. By the way, Marco, not a coincidence that the Browns are on NFL Network every week. The Rams game next week is scheduled for NFL Network. But a little bit of a wrench thrown into the works here on the joint practice with the Eagles on Wednesday, 2 days ago, as rookie quarterback Sanders, oblique injury. Red flag alert, NFL Network. You're a popcorn and eye getter here, views getter. Might took a blow, and he might not play the rest of the preseason. How are you attacking this Eagles-Browns game on national TV Saturday?
Well, the Browns have problems at quarterback. There's no question about it. They had problems at quarterback before the season started. Let's be honest about it. But what they had last week was a situation that Sanders had to play because nobody else was available. They just signed Tyler Huntley. He didn't know the playbook. What was he going to do? And he ended up having a good game, and kudos to him. But again, against vanilla defenses. Now enter week 2. Dylan Gabriel is going to most likely see the most of the majority of the snaps. He's not 100% either. He was one of the quarterbacks that missed last week, missed valuable playing time last week. And so far this week in the joint practices, everything I've read, he's absolutely stunk. Okay. So, you're not going to get a lot of production out of him. And then you're going to see Tyler Huntley. And all right, he's, in his second week in camp, he's not ready to do things, but he is one of those guys that did have experience. He has started some games in the NFL when Lamar Jackson was hurt and so forth. So he has some experience, but he's still learning the offense. The flip side to Philadelphia, they put up a ton of points last week. And why? Well, once again, they have, a quarterback there that's done well. Tanner McKee, he got in, started a game last year, had a good preseason last year, had a good preseason again this year because he's working against backup units. And who did he play against last week? The Cincinnati Bengals. We all know what the Cincinnati Bengals are this year. They're going to be an offensive machine. They're going to be a defense that's going to give up a lot of points. And when you're playing the backups in preseason, the other teams are going to have success. Cleveland has a much better defense than Cincinnati. Doesn't matter if it's first unit, second unit, or third unit. This is a big difference. I look for there to be less scoring tonight. And when you look at what Philadelphia has, I don't see them playing Tanner McKee too much. He is locked in as their number 2 quarterback. There are even a lot of people talking about that if Philadelphia wanted to go out and get some need, they could dangle him as a carrot to a team that might end up coming out of the preseason with an injury at quarterback and need a quarterback. So don't look for him to play excessively in tonight's game. That leaves you with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Okay, he played for the Browns last year and couldn't make that team. Now he's here in Philadelphia. And then you got Kyle McCord, who wasn't good either in preseason. So those 2 guys are going to get most of the snaps, and they're battling for the third position of what quarterback is going to be that number 3 QB in Philadelphia. I don't see a lot of points here. I'll go ahead and take the under in tonight's game between Philly and Cleveland.
And once again, that's on the NFL Network. A little early action on Saturday afternoon at 1 Eastern. The Browns and the Eagles. Cleveland is the NFL Network's darling this preseason, putting them on national TV every week because of the injured quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. Marco, Kylie Reynolds, one of our loyal viewers, asked if you have WNBA tonight, and I'll let you promote. Marco's actually got a strong 4% WNBA game of the week going. And I believe that's on the Friday night card, if I'm not mistaken. And you're number 2 the last couple years. A mere 47-24 net profit of over $5,000. That's over 50 units of profit. So number 2 ranking's pretty impressive still when you're 47-24, Marco, in the WNBA.
66% lifetime in the WNBA. Woo. I'll take that. And, I love Steve when I hear guys that you'll chime in, I'll do a free video on WNBA and they'll actually put in the comments, you lost me as soon as you said WNBA. Why? Okay. Do you not like money? What does it matter? Because somebody says, I don't want to watch it. If you're betting only games you're watching, you're not going to be profitable. Trust me. Okay. The WNBA is a very beatable sport, and I've done well with it. I've got a big 4% play tonight. The play is my WNBA game of the week. You can pick that up. You can get the game by itself for $25 or do the smart thing. grab a 7-day all access package for $69, normally $99. That's the best deal going right now. And you'll get every play I have. We're on a 4-1 run the last 2 days. Let's keep it rolling tonight. Got a big weekend. I've got a couple baseball plays to go along with tonight's 4%. So if you grab the all access, you'll get everything. And then a big Saturday card. And we may even slip in a horse race on Saturday as well, as there's a couple big stake races on around the country tomorrow.
And that's all access. You're going to get Marco's baseball, NFL preseason, WNBA, horse racing if it comes up. All access 7-day special that he mentioned is just $69. No promo code needed. Check it out right now. Marco D'Angelo at WagerTalk.com. And that'll do it. Action-packed show here on Friday. I'm once again Steve Merill filling in for Andy Lang. He'll be back on Monday. He is at the LIV Golf tournament, living life as we speak. I'm sure he'll have some stories from that. And don't forget, we do appreciate you watching, and we also really appreciate a thumbs up like. It takes 2 seconds, and positive comments below. We do read the comments and reply back. If you haven't subscribed, click subscribe to Wager Talk TV for free, and consider hitting that bell as well, so you get an instant alert when free plays are posted each and every day. Shows go live, free play videos are posted. I will have a free baseball video for tonight, also some free NFL preseason videos for this weekend. So make sure you click subscribe and click that bell for an instant alert. And speaking of free plays, I've got a free selection between Dan Alexander's Philadelphia Phillies and my Washington Nationals tonight on Friday, but I didn't dare pick the side. I didn't want to upset either one of us. I went with the total. Free over-under play in that Phillies-Nationals game is posted on my page right now with analysis, along with a strong best bet tonight for Friday. Check that out, Steve Merill, WagerTalk.com. And once again, 7 days for $69, dude. It's normally $99. You can get any capper, unlimited cappers, get multiple cappers, 7-day all access for $69, or make a flex pass. You could flex for $69 and choose different cappers each and every day with that 7-day flex pass. But this is a great time to try out a sampler. 7 days for $69, normally $99. No promo code needed. Check it out on every capper's page right now, including mine, Steve Merill, WagerTalk.com. You can get to my page quicker, wt.buzz/SM. That'll do it. Great week of Wager Talk today. We'll be back on Monday at noon Eastern. Don't forget there is live programming tomorrow on Saturday. Wager Talk last call. Errol Epstein back in the seat. 11 a.m. Eastern here on the network. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games tonight, and we'll talk to you again soon here on Wager Talk TV.